Hey guys, welcome to Skeleton Guy Stories. Tonight's tale will force you to reconsider what's really watching you from behind human eyes. Do you really know the people you see every day? What happens when the familiar becomes strange and you're the only one who notices? Settle in and prepare to sleep with the lights on. Something is wrong with everyone. I woke up in the hospital 2 weeks ago. Everyone seems off. Bear with me. I know this sounds crazy. They told me I was in a car accident. I don't remember the crash, just a blinding flash of light. Since being discharged, things have felt wrong. Not just slightly off, deeply off, like the world is wearing a mask and I'm the only one who can see the seams. Little things were off at first, easy to dismiss. But today, something happened, something I can't explain. And now I know for sure. Whatever this is, it isn't just in my head. This is real, and I'm scared as fuck. At first, nothing seemed too weird. My parents were more doting than usual, but for people whose son had almost died, they took it surprisingly well. Until we got to the car. That's when the concern cracked, and the disappointment seeped through. They scolded me for wrecking my 2003 Saturn shitbox, calling me reckless. The words sounded right, but something was off. My mum's face kept shifting, like she couldn't settle on how she was supposed to feel. My dad, though, he barely moved. He sat rigid, staring straight ahead, as if turning his head wasn't an option. But I could feel him watching me. His gaze lingered in the rearview mirror, heavy and cold. Each time I glanced up, I'd catch his eyes for just a split second before he snapped them back to the road. But I knew he never really looked away. When we got home, I felt a shift. The house wasn't dark exactly. Mum always kept the shades open. She liked the light. But now, they weren't quite shut, just not open enough. My family didn't linger. After some pleasantries, Mum disappeared into the master bedroom. Dad went back to work, and I was left alone on the living room couch. The week that followed was unusual. It was summer break, and doctor's orders were pretty straightforward. You've got a concussion, don't be an idiot. I didn't really care to go outside much. The weather hadn't been as sunny as the first day I got back. Clouds hung low, thick and unmoving, like they were pressing down on the neighborhood. Aside from family dinners, I didn't talk to my parents much. The conversations at the table were dull, barely conversations at all. Dad was working later than usual, often slipping away right after eating. Mom was around. I knew that much. I heard her. The bedroom doors opening and closing, the creak of the floorboards when she walked. But I barely saw her, not in the kitchen, not in the living room, not even when I grabbed snacks at night. Some groceries spoiled, which was weird because Mum was normally on top of that kind of thing. When I pointed it out, she took me shopping, which was actually kind of nice. But as we wandered the aisles, I noticed something. People were staring at me, not in a casual, passing way, intensely, like they were trying to memorize my face. Each time I caught someone, they snapped their head away like they hadn't been watching at all. But the feeling stayed. Not a single person looked like they could hold a normal expression on their faces. I began to feel in danger, and worse, I started to notice something else. As Mom and I passed people, I swore I could hear them pivot to watch me after we walked by. I never actually saw it happen, but I could hear it. The soft squeak of a shoe turning, the faint rustle of fabric shifting. When I got back home, I hopped on Xbox, made plans with some friends for later in the week, and told myself I'd get cleaned up by then. Everything was fine. Everything was fine. 2 days passed. Nothing noteworthy, just my growing awareness of how off everything felt. Mom was moving around more. At least, I think she was. I'd hear her footsteps, soft shuffling noises that always seemed to stop right outside my door. The first few times, I brushed it off. Maybe she was just passing by. Maybe she was listening for signs that I was awake. But the more I paid attention over these past days, the more it felt deliberate. That's why I knew I shouldn't have seen anything. And yet, I did. I heard her, that same soft shuffle. I glanced over from the edge of my bed, half expecting nothing, just another trick of my nerves. But for a split second, I saw them. Her toenails, just at the edge of the door. The instant I registered them, they shot back, too fast. So fast it was like they hadn't been there at all. But I knew what I saw. The carpet where they had been left the faintest depression before, slowly rising back into place. My stomach twisted. Okay, that was it. I'd been hitting the dab pen occasionally to help with the headaches, but clearly that was a mistake. No more of that. No more convincing myself I wasn't tripping out, when clearly I was seeing shit. I waited, listened, heard her shuffle away. Her door clicked shut. I exhaled, rubbed my face, and stood up. Enough of this. I needed to get out of the house. Needed to see my friends, James, Nikki D, and Tyler. The goal was simple. Sober up, ground myself, and maybe, just maybe, bring up what was going on. Obviously, driving wasn't an option. My car was totaled, so I dusted off my old bike from the shed in the back. I didn't even glance at the house on my way out. Didn't need to see my creepy-ass mum peeking from some upstairs window like a horror movie extra. I rode up to the high school football field in about 20 minutes and hopped the fence. Everyone was already there, James, Nikki D, and Tyler. And what followed? It was awesome. The sun was bright for the first time since I'd left the hospital, and for the first time in days, I felt good. I started to think, no, I started to hope, that maybe I'd just been missing out on real in-person socialization. I almost fell for it. I almost let myself believe everything was fine. We played for hours. Eventually, we were wiped, ready to debrief before heading home. I was closest to the corner of the field where the old water pump was, so I went first. Yanked the lever, let the water rush out, cupped my hands, drank. Refreshed, I wandered back to where we'd been playing frisbee, flopped onto the grass, and pulled out my phone. The sun was brutal, washing out the screen. I tilted it, angling downward to block the glare, squinting as I reached for the power button. And then I froze, because in the black reflection of my phone screen, I saw them, all three of them, standing at the water pump, staring at the back of my head. I could tell it was them from their clothes and positions, but their faces were wrong. James in his red Lakers jersey, and Tyler, wearing his signature snapback, had jaws hung open, too wide, far past what should have been possible. It wasn't just slack, it was distorted. Their bottom lips curled downward just enough to reveal rows of teeth. Their heads tilted forward, eyes locked onto me, shoulders hunched, arms dangling too loosely at their sides. They looked like something out of a nightmare, like The Scream, but worse. Nicky, in his blue hoodie, wasn't as bad. He was staring too, but his face shifted, the same way my mom's did when she picked me up from the hospital, like he couldn't quite get it right. And yet, their conversation hadn't stopped. Their voices came out perfectly, flowing like normal. But James and Tyler weren't moving their mouths.
My whole body jerked like I'd been stabbed. My fingers fumbled,
and my phone slipped from my hands, landing in the grass with a soft thud. Nikki asked if I was good. I could barely think, barely breathe. Beads of sweat formed on my temples. I swallowed hard, forced a smile, forced the words out. Yeah, I'm great. And I turned to face them. Normal. They looked normal. Everything was normal. But my stomach twisted into knots because I knew what I saw. And for the first time since I got home, I realized I had nowhere to run. I managed to steady my breathing on the ride back. As I pulled up to my house, I veered toward the spare garage, an old, detached structure barely used except for storage. I rolled my bike inside, careful not to trip over scattered tools and warped furniture, when I froze. In the center of the garage, right where it shouldn't be, was my car. Perfectly intact, not totaled, not even scratched. My breath caught in my throat. I took a slow step forward, fingers brushing the hood. Cold, real, tangible. The last I'd heard of this car. I was being told it had been wrecked, scrapped. My parents handed me $250 and said that's all it was worth. So why was it here? A low tremor crawled up my spine. The car was structurally perfect but covered in dust, as if it had been hidden here untouched for weeks. How long was I in the hospital? Doesn't matter. It was getting dark. I did a quick fluid check, ran my hands over the tires, making sure it'd be ready if I needed it, then jogged back to the house. But the second I stepped through the front door, it hit me again. Rapid, aggressive shuffling, door slam. Then, in a voice too casual, too normal, to be real. Honey, you missed dinner. Want me to heat some up for you? Nope. It's okay, Mom. I'll handle it. The living room TV was blue-screened, casting a sickly glow over the open floor plan. I grabbed some snacks from the fridge, went straight to my room, locked the door, dug out my old iPod Generation 6 from middle school, buried in a shoebox, and set it to charge. For a while, I just sat there listening. It was too quiet. I FaceTimed the iPod from my phone, hesitating, debating whether I should even leave my room. The plan was simple: a strategic iPod drop-off during my next bathroom run. I executed flawlessly, waiting for the next round of patrolling before slipping out. I cracked the closet door just enough to give my iPod a view down the hall, plugged the charger in beneath the bottom shelf, and left it there. A hidden eye, a way to see what my parents really looked like when they thought no one was watching. I almost regret this decision. It seemed fine when I got back into my room and locked the door. I quietly angled my dresser in front of it, wedging my desk chair as tightly as I could under the handle. I was checking the iPod's camera feed when I must have made too much noise moving the furniture. I heard my parents' door fly open, slamming into the inside wall of their bedroom. By the time I grabbed my phone, she was already there, standing at the end of the hall, facing my door, swaying. She was past the weird shifting face that Nikki had. Whatever this is, there's stages. Her jaw wasn't just distended, it was stretched beyond its limit. The skin pulled so tight it dangled with every sway of her body. Even from here, I could see the bags under her eyes. Not just dark circles, but loose, sagging folds that drooped to her upper lip, exposing way too much dry, pink eyelid. Her hair, thin and patchy, clung to her scalp with a greasy sheen from the glow of the living room TV and the dim light spilling from the master bedroom. Her arms didn't hang. Her elbows were bent at stiff, unnatural 90-degree angles, shoulders hunched forward, wrists limp, long, bony fingers dangling. The only way I knew it was my mum was the pajama top. It clung to her sharp, skeletal frame, stretched over the ridges of her spine, hanging loose around her frail shoulders. She leaned in, pressed against the door. Her head tilted, slow, deliberate, like she could see through the wood, tracking exactly where I was. And then, a whisper. "Honey, are you awake?" Her mouth didn't move, lips stretched thin, jaw unhinged and frozen in that grotesque, slack-jawed state. But the words came anyway, perfectly clear, perfectly human. "I know you're up, honey. I just heard you moving." Yeah. I just moved some furniture around. I didn't like where my TV was." A pause. Then the whisper again. Perfectly clear, perfectly human. "Can I see?" My throat tightened. "Tomorrow," I lied. "I'm naked right now. I don't want to get dressed. Please, please, please work." I was frozen, my face glued to my phone screen, not daring to look away from the grainy FaceTime feed. My breath barely made a sound. Then finally, "Okay, tomorrow then." As she spoke, something shifted in the farthest, darkest corner past the stairs. At first, I thought it was just shadow, but then an arm, thin, brittle, dangling down from the ceiling like a puppet on cut strings. Another arm followed, then a body, slow and deliberate, lowering itself down the wall. My stomach turned to ice. Dad. Did he ever even leave the house? Was he already this far along when he picked me up from the hospital with Mom? None of it mattered. He moved with absolute silence, clambering up the stairs as Mom whispered one last time, "Good night, son. I love you." Then, Dad shuffled past her. Same stiff, unnatural cadence Mom had been moving with these past few days. If I weren't staring straight at him, I would have sworn it was still her. He went to the master bedroom, closed the door. Then, without making a single noise, he came back. A trick I would have surely fell for if I hadn't been watching them this whole time. He ended right behind where she was standing. And that brings me to now. For the past 2 hours, they've been outside my door. Every move I make, they track it. Through the wood, through the silence. It's 3:02 a.m. If I can just make it to daylight without passing out, I think I can open the bay window and jump. After that, straight to the spare garage, grab the car, get the fuck out of town. I don't know how far this shit is spread, but I can't stay here. Oh fuck. They're getting on the ground, lowering themselves, peeking under the door. I might have to go right now. Okay, fuck. I'll update this when I'm safe. This is it, guys. Hope you liked the story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss a new nightmare. Good luck.